offshore Arctic risk be managed? I'm posing this rhetorical question because many stakeholders are asking this. The operators themselves, the politicians, the authorities, the financiers, and indeed the Greens, and probably you and me as well. So why do we expose ourselves to dangers and possible serious pollution and loss of investment? Why do we accept the risk? Where there is no risk, there is neither anything to win. The purpose of risk management is not to eliminate risk, but to understand so that we can maximize the potential gain at the same time as we can minimize the potential loss. To say if you manage to do something, that means that you do it successfully. To manage is synonymous with control. When it comes to minimizing consequences and likelihood of an undesirable event in risk assessment, is typically through your knowledge gained through study and experience, through your skill and ingenuity. If you are able to do this better than the others, you will be more successful. So why is it that we take such extraordinary interest in the Arctic? Some of the world's most productive fisheries are there. The Arctic may contain about 13% of the oil, undiscovered oil, and 85% of the undiscovered gas. There are large deposits of rare earth minerals that need to be transported out. There is, as you know, trans-Arctic shipping will reduce significantly the distance between East Asia and Western Europe. And there is an increasing tourist industry. And what is it that makes Arctic hazard so special? Well, it's the ice, of course, what's on the sea, but also the icing of superstructure, the icebergs that we will meet in some of the areas. The remoteness, a critical aspect when it comes to rescue and pollution mitigation, the vulnerability of the environment, the long winter darkness, which is a strain to operations in general and to the mental health of people, and of course the extreme weather conditions. With that backdrop, DNVGL has launched a high-level Arctic risk picture intended to helping stakeholders to get an initial understanding of the risk level in the different Arctic regions, because they are quite diverse, from Greenland to the Barents Sea, to the Kara Sea, to Okhotsk. I'm not going to spend much time on this. I think you all are very familiar with it. Just to say that, well, it's not only about safety of your people or the safety of your environment, but it's also relating to the integrity of your assets and the sustainability of your business. Working with risk is not just about statistics, about technology, about minimizing probabilities and consequences. You will also be confronted with your stakeholders' perception of risk, being the man in the street or your lawmaker. What you will tell them is absolute and minimal risk. They will actually perceive as serious and to be concerned about. Just look at how the man in the street, or the professional for that matter, look at a terrorist attack or a plane crash, whereas the actual statistical risk is very, very, very small. And look at how he looks at traffic accidents. He believes he is in control, but he has no control on it, and it happens far too often. In many countries, the legislation requires us to carry out risk assessment. But this is not just a required document that you can tick off in the list of to-do. To ensure that we do not end up in a failed project or a disastrous operation, we have to start at the very concept stages of our project and continuously update our risk assessment through the project. To keeping control of continuously changing risk picture can be a problem. There are some good software tools that will help us to, with risk management throughout our projects. We have developed one together with several of the most recognized international customers, and it's called Synergy Live. Stakeholders need to agree on an acceptable risk level. So what is an acceptable risk? The governing authorities, the greater global community and the industry has to establish a common agreed and acceptable operational mode for the Arctic frontier. To maintain a comparative risk level as in the North Sea, through almost 50 years of operation there, was proposed and agreed in the Barents 2020 project. I'll have a couple of words about that project later. For DNVGL, we believe that it is imperative that in order to maintain this risk level, it's important to manage the total risk picture with all the risks that we are confronted with. And about the Barents 2020 project, with increasing likelihood of oil and gas activities in the Barents and other Arctic environments, a major Russian-Norwegian cooperative project was started, and it was participated by many, if not all, of the Russian oil companies, by Russian authorities and Norwegian, but also by international operators. DNVGL and NIGAS jointly had the responsibility for leading this project and indeed participating. The main objective was to assess if existing regulations, particularly national and international standards, were fully prepared and updated and sufficient to address the special Arctic conditions. 2 reports were concluded and they are available to you on the net. In the Barents 2020, it was agreed to use the existing safety level in the North Sea as a benchmark for the Barents Sea. If risk in the Arctic is higher than in the North Sea, the probability of failure must be reduced, i.e. the functionality and performance of technical safety barriers must be considered first and foremost. Whereas we onshore have traditionally been able to rely on safety and reliability taken care of by using existing and recognized standards, we have also learned that moving on offshore and into the Arctic, economic and safe developments and operations can only be realized through actively implementing risk assessment and technology qualification technologies. Yes, I think we are almost up, sorry. It's a bit slow. There we are. Next. The task at hand, and I think it has been talked about earlier today also, to establish the barriers that is necessary to stop accidents actually happening. Collaboration between stakeholders, we believe, is essential to succeed. And who are the stakeholders? Of course, they are the Arctic populations, don't forget them. The environmental organization, they will also want to have a hand. the Arctic bordering states and governments, the oil and gas operators, shipping operators, academia and scientific organization, and basically us, the greater global community. I see that the red light is flickering in now, so I've got one left, Dimitri, so I will not stay much over time. We believe that the industry can develop ways to safely explore the Arctic region, given that there is a cooperation across stakeholders. Basically, to approach what we are doing these days in the Arctic has never ever been done by before, and we are meeting technological barriers all the way. Thus, to cooperate, that makes us strong to develop technical solutions, to have transparency of data and knowledge, and of course to preserve the biology and the livelihood of those who are in that environment. A stepwise exploration that we should continuously harvest and share experience and knowledge from one phase to another, from one project to another, and between operators. And to gain, of course, as we talked about, the risk communication, to gain the trust amongst the stakeholders. Because if we don't, we will have no license to continue developing the Arctic. And of course, lastly, to have a risk-based approach. And I think it has been talked about by many. If we do not, we are not going to be certain that we will do this successfully, to manage to have control. Thank you very much.